and I mean it, what to do. And this is what happens when we feel like our toes are stepped on, when we see an injustice occurring around us or a need unmet, when God gives us the awareness to notice that something's not quite right. What standards do we respond with? What rules do we follow? Or do we? Do you just let it go? Do you know the pressure cooker feeling? You know that in the cartoons when the pressure would start rising in the cartoon character and pretty soon there was smoke coming out of their ears? That's what happens when we don't do anything, isn't it? And we act out when we don't speak the truth. Think about it, give it some time, be skillful, be mindful, and then speak the truth. So that's one possibility, is that we can get ourselves in a lot of trouble. Richard Rohr, one of the wise Franciscan priests that I know about, he said that pain that is not healed is transmitted. So if we do not say anything, if we do not do our work, we're going to act out someplace. We're going to act out with the very people that we don't want to hurt or harm or offend, or somebody else. I mean, somebody's going to say good morning and you're going to say, what's so good about it? You know, I mean, it just happens like that because a human being can just take so much, and at some point you need to let off the valve, right? So if we don't do our work, if we don't address our thoughts and feelings in some way, we carry the issue with us. Even if we don't have the steam coming out of our ears. Are you at your best? We're not at our best. So we transmit them by our resentment, by our impatience, by our discouragement, or just by being distracted. When we don't know what to do and the first impulse is to pounce, then it's time to be curious. Talked about being curious before. It's that moment when we do not know the answer, but we'd like to find it. Theologian Parker Palmer, a wonderful, wise man, said that an honest question is the one where we don't already know the answer. You know how sometimes you go into an encounter and you ask the question because you already know the correct answer? Well, that's not an honest question. An honest question is one when you do not know the answer. So, the way that I went about it would be, well, what could be a workable solution for everybody here who eats at this table? And pursue that line of thinking, because if we don't, no good outcome can occur. Somebody said to me recently, if you don't ask, you'll never get it. If you don't ask, the answer is no. It's always going to be no unless you ask. And you know, what is it that you need from your family? What is it that you need from your best friend? What is it that you need from your boss or your neighbor or the person who's sitting next to you this morning? What is it that you want to ask for? I invite you to do that. I invite you to come to the table with curiosity and ask yourself, what is it that I need? What is it that I want to ask for? And maybe I'm afraid to, or I don't quite know how to, but I need to. I need to ask. You remember that Jesus told us to ask, to seek, to knock. I mean, he didn't say, well, this might be a strategy you could use. He said, ask, and you shall receive. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and the door will be opened unto you. It amazes me how many of us mature adults don't ask. We have a need, but we hesitate. If we don't come back to the issue, if we allow it to fester, we risk passive-aggressive behavior. You know what that looks like? Does anybody, nobody else in this room, just me. Passive-aggressive behavior. Okay, it can show up as gossip. It can show up as mindless speech. It can show up as triangulation, any number of skillful ways. We risk causing pain and continuing ill will. And the whole point, my friends, of mindful speech is not to do that, but to heal the ways we used to behave, and to behave in a new, enlightened way. So the end of the story is this. We sat down last night. It took me a few days to kind of get my head around that I could ask. And I said, well, I don't know if this is fair, but I'm going to ask you all what you think. I did this, and I came home, and I saw this, and you had the meal. So I'm wondering what would be a fair solution that would involve all of us. I cook, you clean. What about that? And my 12-year-old daughter said, Mom, you know, you don't have to keep talking. I was talking a lot, trying to get over my awkwardness. And she said, you don't have to keep talking, Mom. Here's the deal. Let's just make a sign-up sheet. You cook, which you do every single night. And then we'll just, one night is Rosie, one night is Miho, one night is Shiyun, one night is Rosie, one night, and so on. And she said, if somebody doesn't want to clean up, they have to cook. I said, well, that sounds like a great solution. So you see, this mindfulness thing can be huge, it can be about world affairs, and it can be small. Most of my revelations are small these days. I'm a mom and a householder. Most of what I realize comes from the wisdom of being at a table with kids, you know, or with people in my job. So to finish for today, I wanted to read to you a couple of very brief things from one of my favorite wordsmiths. Do you know Garrison Keillor? He said this: a minister has to be able to read a clock. At noon, it's time to go home and turn up the pot roast and get the peas out of the freezer. And secondly, he said, be well, do good work, and keep in touch. God bless you.